Hi guys, so today I'm going to continue reading a book that I've been reading on my channel. It's called The Atlantean Conspiracy, and it is kind of like a controversial book. It calls out a lot of establishments, politics, politicians, talks about secret societies like the Skull and Bones, and I'm just going to jump in here. Feel free to put any comments or questions in the comment section. Alright, so shortly after Operation Paperclip came Operation Mockingbird, during which the CIA trained reporters and created media outlets to disseminate their propaganda. One of Project Mockingbird's lead roles was played by Philip Graham, who would become publisher of the Washington Post. Declassified documents admit that over 25 organizations and 400 journalists became CIA assets, which now include major names like ABC, NBC, CBS, AP, Reuters, Time, Newsweek, and more. He's popular. You need to see him. Okay, I'll look into him. In 1953, the Iranian coup, classified as Operation Ajax, was the CIA's first successful overthrow of a foreign government. In 1951, Iran Parliament and Prime Minister Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh voted for nationalizing their oil industry, which upset Western oil barons like the Rockefellers. On April 4th, 1953, CIA Director Alan Dulles transferred $1 million to Iranian General Fazlollah Zahedi to be used in, quote, in any way that would bring about the fall of Mossadegh. Coup leaders first planted anti-Mossadegh propaganda throughout the Iranian press, held demonstrations, and bribed officials. Then they began committing terror attacks to blame on Mossadegh, hoping to bring public sentiment away from their hero. They machine-gunned civilians, bombed mosques, and then passed out pamphlets saying, quote, "Up with Mossadegh, up with communism, down with Allah," end quote. Zahedi's coup took place between August 15th and 19th, after which the CIA sent $5 million more for helping their new government consolidate power. Soon America controlled half of Iran's oil production, and American weapons merchants moved in, making almost $20 billion off Iran in the next 20 years. Oh sure, James, I'll follow you. Oh, hi, Raphael. There we go. Where am I from? I'm from San Diego, California, here in the United States. Will I stream tomorrow? No, I'm not streaming tomorrow. I am doing 2 hours of streaming today, and I'll be back on Monday with 3 hours of streaming. So I'll do one in the morning Pacific Standard Time, like around like 10 a.m. And the second one will be like early afternoon, and the last one will be like late afternoon. Okay, so here we have a quote. This is a quote from Alex Jones. It is, in 1953, the Central Intelligence Agency, working in tandem with MI6, overthrew the democratically elected leader of Iran, Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh had been educated in the West, was pro-America, and had driven communist forces out of the north of his country shortly after being elected in 1951. Mossadegh then nationalized the oil fields and denied British Petroleum a monopoly. The CIA's own history department at CIA.gov details how U.S. and British intelligence agents carried out terror attacks and then subsequently blamed them on Mossadegh. The provocations included propaganda, demonstrations, bribery, agents of influence, and false flag operations. They bombed the home of a prominent religious leader and blamed it on Mossadegh. They attacked mosques, machine-gunned crowds, and then handed out thousands of handbills claiming that Mossadegh had done it. Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh, who was incarcerated for the duration of his life, fared better than any of his ministers, who were executed just days after the successful coup for crimes that MI6 and the CIA had committed, end quote. Oh, hi guys, if you're just coming in, am I popular? You know, I just started, like in general in my life, I mean, people like me. Yeah, I don't know, not so much on here just yet. I'm getting up there. Oh, thank you, Faya. Oh, thanks, guys. If you're just coming in right now, I'm reading from the book, The Atlantean Conspiracy. In 1954, the CIA performed its second coup d'etat, overthrow of a foreign democracy. This time it was Guatemala, whose popular leader, Jacobo Arbenz Guzman, had recently nationalized 1.5 million acres of land for the peasants. Before this, only 2.2% of Guatemala's landowners owned 70% of the land, which included that of the United Fruit Company, whose board of directors were friends with the Dulles brother and wanted to keep Guatemala a banana republic. So once again, the CIA sent in propagandists and mercenaries, trained militia groups, bombed the capital, and installed their puppet dictator Castillo Armas, who gave the United Fruit Company and the other 2.2% landowners everything back. Military dictators ruled Guatemala for the next 30 years, killing over 100,000 citizens. Guatemalan coroners were reported saying they could not keep up with the bodies. The CIA called it Operation Success. Flash says, do you watch WWE or The Flash? Oh, you know what? I don't watch those. Sorry. James says, are you my friend? I'll be your friend. That sounds great. Oh, thanks, Vikas. Okay, here's a quote from John Stockwell, former CIA official. Quote, the CIA has overthrown functioning democracies in over 20 countries, end quote. They always follow the same strategy. First, globalist interests are threatened by a popular or democratically elected foreign leader. Leaders who help their populations nationalize foreign-owned industries, protect workers, redistribute wealth/land, and other such actions, loved by the lower and middle-class majority, hated by the super-rich minority. Next, the CIA identifies and cooperates with opposition militia groups within the country, promising them political power and trade for American business freedom. Then they are hired, trained, and funded to overthrow the current administration through propaganda, rigged elections, blackmail, infiltration, disruption of opposition parties, intimidation, torture, economic sabotage, death squads, and assassinations. Eventually, the CIA-backed militia group stages a coup and installs their corporate sympathizer dictator, and the former leaders are propagated as having been radicals or communists, and the rest of the world is taught to shrug and view American imperialism as necessary world policing. The CIA has now evolved this whole rocket into a careful science, which they teach at the infamous School of the Americas. They also publish books like the Freedom Fighters Manual and the Human Resource Exploitation Training Manual, teaching methods of torture, blackmail, interrogation, propaganda, and sabotage to foreign military officials. Hi guys. Do I watch The Terminator? I have seen The Terminator, like the movie. Yeah. Alright guys, if you're just coming in right now, I'm reading from the book, The Atlantean Conspiracy. Feel free to put anything you want in the comments. I'll reply. Okay. Starting in 1954, the CIA ran operations attempting to overthrow the communist North Vietnamese government. While supporting the No Diem regime in South Vietnam from 1957 to 1973, the CIA conducted what has been termed the secret war in Laos, during which they carried out almost one coup per year in an effort to overthrow their democracy. After several unsuccessful attempts, the U.S. began a bombing campaign, dropping more explosives and planting more landmines in Laos during the Second War than during all of World War II. Untold thousands died, and a quarter of the Laotian people became refugees, often living in caves. Right up to the present, Laotians are killed/maimed almost daily from unexploded landmines. In 1959, the U.S. helped install Papa Doc Duvalier, the Haitian dictator whose factions killed over 100,000. In 1961, CIA Operation Mongoose attempted and failed to overthrow Fidel Castro. Also in 1961, the CIA assassinated the Dominican Republic's leader, Rafael Trujillo, assassinated Zaire's democratically elected Patrice Lumumba, and staged a coup against Ecuador's President Jose Velasco, after which U.S. President JFK fired CIA Director Alan Dulles. In 1963, The CIA was back in the Dominican Republic and Ecuador performing military coups, overthrowing Juan Bosch and President Eros Samana. In 1964, another CIA-funded/armed coup overthrew Brazil's democratically elected João Goulart, replacing him with dictator General Castelo Branco. CIA trained secret police and marauding death squads. In 1965, the CIA performed coups in Indonesia and Zaire and installed oppressive military dictators. General Suharto in Indonesia would then go on to slaughter nearly 1 million of his countrymen. In 1967, a CIA-backed coup overthrew the government of Greece. In 1968, they helped capture Che Guevara in Bolivia. In 1970, they overthrew Cambodia's popular Prince Sihanouk, an action that greatly strengthened the once minor opposition Khmer Rouge Party, who went on to murder millions. In 1971, they backed a coup in Bolivia and installed dictator Hugo Banzer, who went on to torture and murder over 2,000 of his political opponents. In 1973, they assassinated Chile's democratically elected Salvador Allende and replaced him with General Augusto Pinochet, who murdered thousands of his civilians. On and on it goes. The Association for Responsible Dissent put out a report estimating that by 1987, 6 million people worldwide had died resulting from CIA covert operations. Since then, there have been many untold millions more. Oh, nice to meet you, millionaire hories. Nice to meet you, Siraj. You found a millipede in your room. Well, that's funny. Okay, here's a quote from Amnesty International Annual Report on U.S. Military Aid and Human Rights, 1996. Throughout the world, on any given day, a man, woman, or child is likely to be displaced, tortured, killed, or disappeared at the hands of governments or armed political groups. More often than not, the United States shares the blame. End quote. 1979 to 1989, CIA Operation Cyclone, with joint funding from Britain's MI6, heavily armed and trained over 100,000 Afghani Mujahideen, holy warriors, during the Soviet war in Afghanistan. With the help of the Pakistani ISI, Inter-Services Intelligence, billions of dollars were given to create this Islamic army. Salik Harrison from the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars stated, quote, "The CIA made a historic mistake in encouraging Islamic groups from all over the world to come to Afghanistan. The U.S. provided $3 billion, now many more billion, for building up these Islamic groups, and it accepted Pakistan's demands that they should decide how this money should be spent. Today, that money and those weapons have helped build up the Taliban, who are now making a living out of terrorism." End quote. Perhaps, as Harrison stated, the CIA made a historic mistake in creating these jihadists, or perhaps they knew exactly what they were doing. Recently declassified DIA, or Defense Intelligence Agency documents, prove that the U.S. government was long aware of the ISI's sponsorship/creation of both the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. We have a quote here from Congressional Representative Dana Rohrabacher, the House International Relations Committee on Global Terrorism in South Asia, 2000, quote, "The United States has been part and parcel to supporting the Taliban all along, and still is, let me add. You have a military government in Pakistan now that is arming the Taliban to the teeth. Let me note that U.S. aid has always gone to Taliban areas. And when people from the outside try to put aid into areas not controlled by the Taliban, they are thwarted by our own State Department. Pakistan has initiated a major resupply effort, which eventually saw the defeat and caused the defeat of almost all of the anti-Taliban forces in Afghanistan." End quote. Oh, sure, you can have a follow back. There you go. Guys, if you're just joining the stream right now, I am reading from the book, The Atlantean Conspiracy. Guys, give me 1 second. Let me just fix my camera.